Hi class. I want to do a YouTube video for you. Today we're going to go over division. Our objective is I can solve a 3-digit dividend with divisors of 2, 3, 4, 5, and 7. So that's our objective today. There are 4 steps in division. The first step is to divide. The next is multiply, subtract, bring down. Now, another good way of remembering these 4 steps is daddy, mother, sister, and brother. Okay, so I have this division problem. 297 divided by 4. Okay, now this number right here is called the dividend. Okay, now this right here is the house. I'll call it the house. And in your house, you have a den. So we call this number the dividend. Now this number right here is called the divisor. It's outside the house and it needs a visor on because it's outside the house. So my first step is to divide. So I have 4 here, and I want to see if it can go into 2. Now 4 cannot go into 2. So now I need to go 29. 4 into 29, and I think how many groups of 4 can go into 29? So 7. I'm going to put the 7 on top of the 9 because I know our next step is to multiply. 7 times 4 is 28. Now my next step is subtract. 9 minus 8 is 1. My next step is to bring down my next number. So I'm going to draw an arrow here and I'm going to bring down the 7. Now I'll start the steps all over again. I'm going to divide 4 into 17. So I think how many groups of 4 can go into 17 without going over? You can't go over the number. Okay? So I think, let's see. 4 times 5 is 20, so that would be too much. So 4 times 4 is 16. So I'm going to put 16 here. 4 times 4 is 16. Now I'm going to subtract. And I'm going to get 1 here. Okay, I have no other numbers to bring down. So I stop here. So can 4 go into 1? No. So my remainder is going to be 1. So I'll put a capital R here, 1. Okay? So my quotient, we call this the quotient. The answer is called the quotient. My quotient is 74, remainder 1. I have 1 left over. Okay? Now, if I don't have a remainder, okay, you do not need to put R0. Okay? You just leave it alone and do not put R0. Okay, so a way that we can check to see if our quotient is correct is I can take 74, my quotient, and multiply it by my divisor. Okay, I start with my 1s. 4 times 4 is 16. I put down my 6. I carry my 10 from 16 over to my tens place. And then I'll multiply my tens. 7 times 4 is 28, plus the 10 that I brought over is 29. Now, I add my remainder, plus 1, and I get 7, 9, and 2. Okay, this matches my dividend. So I know my answer is correct. So that's how you can check your work with division. Okay? Now, my next problem I want to go over is, it says how many weeks are in a year? So what do we need to solve? Well, we need to know how many days there are in a year. And there are 365 days in a year. Okay? What other information do we need? Well, we need to know how many days are in a week. And there's 7 days in a week. So I'm going to take my 365 days in a year, and I'm going to divide it by 7 days in a week. Okay? And let me just erase this right here. Okay? We want to know, the question is how many weeks are in a year? So how many weeks are in a year? So that's what I want to find out. So there's 365 days. I divide it by how many days are in a week, and then I'll find out how many weeks are in a year. Okay, now 7 cannot go into 3. But 7 can go into 36. So I think, how many times can 7 go into 36? Well, I know that 5 times 7 is 35. So I go 5 times 7 is 35. I subtract. 6 minus 5 is 1. 3 minus 3 is 0. Now my next step is to bring down. So I draw an arrow. I bring down my 5. Okay. Now I start the process over again. I divide 7 into 15. And I know 2 times 7 is 14. So I go 2 times 7 is 14. I subtract, and I get 1. I have no other numbers to bring down, so I'm finished. Okay, so 1 is going to be my remainder. So I put capital R, 1. And to check my work, I can multiply 52 times 7. 2 times 7 is 14. I put down my 4 ones. I bring over my 10. Then I go 5 times 7 is 35. Plus 1 is 36. Plus my remainder. I have to add my remainder. Don't forget to add your remainder. So 4 plus 1 is 5. 6, 3. Now this matches my dividend. So I know my quotient is correct. 52, remainder 1. All right. Now, let's go over some more problems. Okay, I have 776 divided by 2. Okay, so if I divide by 2, that means half. So I drew a tape diagram, and I put the total 776 at the top. And I broke my tape diagram into 2 parts. And I want to see how much is my quotient going to be. So 2 into 7. Can 2 go into 7? Yes, it can. Because I know that 2 times 3 is 6. So I'll put 6 down. I subtract. And I get 1. Now I bring down my 7. Now I have 17. So now I divide 2 into 17. And 2 can go into 17 8 times. 2 times 8 is 16. So I put 16 here. I subtract. And I get 1. Now I bring down. I have another number to bring down. 6. Now I have 16. So now I start over again with my steps. I divide 2 into 16, and I know that 2 times 8 is 16. I'm going to subtract, and I have no more left. It's 0. So I have no remainder. So I'm not going to put R0 at the top because you don't need to. Okay? And then if I wanted to check my work, I would go 388 times 2, and it should be 776. Okay? Now, let me just erase this. Now let's divide 861 by the divisor 3. I think to myself, can 3 go into 8? Yes, it can go into 8. Okay? It can go 2 times. So 2 times 3 is 6. I subtract. I get 2. I bring down my next number, which is 6. Now I have 26. So I think, how many times can 3 go into 26? Well, I know that 3 times 8 is 24. So I put 24, I subtract, and I get 2. Now I bring down my 1. So I draw an arrow. I'll put my 1 down. I have 21 now. 3 can go into 21 7 times because I know 3 times 7 is 21. So I'll put my 7 here. That's 21. I subtract 0. No remainder. Okay, and if I wanted to check my work, I would go 287 times 3 and should get 861. And that would match my dividend. So if it matches your dividend, you had it right. Okay? All right, now we're going to do number 5. It's 625 divided by 5. So I think, can 5 go into 6? Yes, 1 time. So I'll put a 1 here. 1 times 5 is 5. I subtract. I get 1. Now I'll bring down my next number, which is a 2. Now I have 12. So I think, how many times can 5 go into 12? 2. 2 times 5 is 10. So I subtract. This is 2. Now I'll bring down my 5. Now I have 25. So 5 can go into 25 5 times. 5 times 5 is 25. Subtract. I have no remainder. Okay? And then to check my work, I would go 125 times 5, and I should get 625. So it should match. Okay, now I'm going to do a word problem. It's going to be division. Okay? Now, there are 4 steps in solving a word problem. Okay? You need to understand the problem first, then you plan, then you solve, and you look back. UPSL. So you need to understand the problem. All right? So the first thing we do is understand. So Cindy bought a bag of grapes weighing 846 grams. So I'm going to underline this. Underline, Cindy bought a bag of grapes weighing 846 grams. So I want to underline my important information. She shared half of the grapes with her brother. Now, half would mean you divide by 2. And the question is, how many grams of grapes does Cindy have now? Okay, after she shared them with her brother. So I know that I'm going to understand the problem. I know, now the next step is to plan. I know I'm going to have to use division. Okay, because sharing means to divide. That's a clue word. Now, and then I solve, and then you look back and check your work. Okay? So, Cindy bought a bag of grapes weighing 846 grams. So I'm going to put 846 grams Okay, I'm going to draw a tape diagram. And half means I'm going to put a vertical line and halfway in between to make two parts. Okay, so I know I need to divide, so I'm going to divide 846, divide by 2. Okay, so I think, how many times can 2 go into 8? Well, I know 2 times 4 is 8, so I'll go 2 times 4 is 8. I subtract, I get 0. My next step is to bring down, so bring down 4. 2 can go into 4 2 times. 2 times 2 is 4. I subtract, I get 0. I bring down my 6. 2 can go into 6 3 times. 2 times 3 is 6. Subtract, I get 0 as a remainder. Okay, so the quotient is 423. So Cindy has 423 grams of grapes, and her brother has 423 grams of grapes. And if you add this 2 together, you'll get 846 grams. So now what I want you to do is, I want you to think of a word problem, a division word problem, sharing amongst friends, and dividing, and find the quotient. So today, our objective was I can solve a 3-digit dividend with divisors of 2, 3, 4, 5, and 7. So that was our objective today. And I'll see you next time in my next video. Goodbye.